Welcome to another episode of Slightly Under Asking. I'm Kelly Sajoni.
And I'm Caitlin McKegg.
Today, we have a kind of a fun play on last episode where Caitlin and I were unpacking our financial.
Let's just say we brought in the expert.
Yeah.
We were kind of just messing around with our feelings last time. Now we have some actual help.
Downward spiral. And now we brought in the big guns.
Yes.
So today we have Jamie Piper with us. She is a certified financial behavior specialist. Did I get that right?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right.
Perfect.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, what the body of your work looks like.
Sure. So if the simplest way to refer to me is a financial coach or a money coach or a money mindset coach. Some of my clients refer to me as their financial psychologist, but I am not technically a financial psychologist, but I use financial psychology and behavioral finance tools to help people feel better about money. And basically, in really simple terms, I help people deal with difficult emotions around money. So I really focus on mindset, psychology, beliefs, behaviors, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and behaviors is my domain. I do a little bit of like tactical and strategic money management work with clients, but the bulk of my work is financial psychology.
What's like your typical client avatar? Like, who are the people that are gravitated towards your work?
Yeah, so I primarily help people with a lot of money who feel like they don't have a lot of money and are super stressed about it.
Yeah.
So if a client can't sleep at night and they're making $300,000 to $500,000 a year and they're panicked over money, that is where I can really help them because their financial anxiety is not caused by a lack of money.
Yeah.
And are a lot of your clients in that kind of inconsistent money making type of like entrepreneurship, real estate, like that kind of thing?
Yeah. One of my specialty areas is financial trauma, and inconsistent income will certainly or can cause financial trauma, which is something I'd like to talk about today because I think it's so relevant. Yeah. And so I do find that I work with a lot of either business owners or people that I refer to as entrepreneurs. They're not your typical employee role. But I work with employees as well who make really good money and still feel a lot of financial anxiety. So the common thread among all of them is high income, high financial anxiety.
Can you define financial trauma for us?
Yes.
Like, I think we all know like trauma in the sense of like maybe tied in with the word like abuse. So like, tell us what that looks like in like a financial setting.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So financial trauma is really indistinguishable from regular trauma. In fact, there was a study done, I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I want to say it was like Bankrate or NerdWallet or something, that showed that something like 73% of millennials experience financial trauma that is indistinguishable from regular PTSD, which is a shocking number. And to me, that means it's an epidemic. I mean, so many people are suffering from this problem. So financial trauma is really just referring to the causes of the traumatic feelings and responses. Yeah. So there's like 30 different causes of financial trauma. Inconsistent income is certainly one. I have a screener for clients when I suspect they may have experienced financial trauma because it's very tricky to work through. And the last question on the screener is inconsistent income over a long period of time. And I want to just cross that off and write entrepreneur.
Yeah.
It's basically the same thing, right? Yeah. I mean, I haven't been an employee in over 20 years. Actually, it's probably close to 25 years now. I haven't been an employee. And so I'm very personally familiar with what that feels like. Yeah. So that's certainly one of them. Standard things like being a victim of a Ponzi scheme is another cause. Financial theft, whether it's a family member, friend, business associate, anything that has a real negative, highly distressing effect on a person that's directly related to money is financial trauma, basically. Yeah. And everyone experiences it differently. Like your trauma looks different from my trauma. But unfortunately, the symptoms or the effect are the same as any other type of trauma.
Okay.
Do you find
Yeah.
that a lot of this it starts in childhood, or is this something, okay, so no different than any other sort of trauma where you experience it young and then you carry it with you as you go?
Absolutely. It's the same. Every client I've ever worked with will tell you that our first session is basically like a therapy session where I'm like, tell me about your childhood.
Yeah.
What were your parents like? You know, so much of our beliefs and behaviors were formed from our childhood, really like pre-age 10. And our financial behaviors are really kind of stuck in what we learned when we were children. And it just, in my opinion, it's really hard to work through like distressing or confusing current financial behaviors without understanding where they came from. Unless you do hypnosis or something, that might work. I haven't tried it. I'm a little afraid to.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like you really need to understand the source of these thoughts, feelings, and beliefs and behaviors in order to unpack them and then start reframing them. So yeah, absolutely stems back to like early days, you know, first learning experiences. Like I have just a short story. I have a client who was convinced she hadn't experienced any financial trauma. And then she kind of casually shared with me that when she was 17, she had spent a year working at this very low wage job, of course, not making a lot of money when you're 16, 17, to save money to buy a car. And her father took all of the money out of her bank account and went and bought her a car without her knowledge or permission. And she was devastated. She said she cried for days, if not weeks. And she has never trusted men with money again. And I said, well, no wonder that was financially traumatizing for you. That's financial trauma.
Yeah.
So a lot of people experience financial trauma and they're just not even aware. And they don't see the link between those experiences and their current behavior even decades later.
Do you find that more women are suffering from this present day? You know what I mean? Because of maybe, I don't know. Maybe more women are exposed to inconsistent messages about work and maybe traditional aspects of, you know, how women should operate. And do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
Maybe
I
I'm
understand.
kind of spiraling.
I think this is kind of a two-part question. I think women's experiences with money are very different from men's experiences with money. Men typically, at least traditionally, at least back when my parents got married, men held all of the control and power over money. Women couldn't get their own credit cards for, you know, decades and decades. I don't remember when it was, but it was not that long ago.
Yeah.
And so it's more complicated. However, on the flip side of that, men have different expectations placed on them around money. And I do work with men, and I find that they cannot talk to anyone about what they're experiencing. So they suffer in silence. They can't talk to their friends. They can't talk to their family. They don't feel comfortable talking to therapists because they have these expectations placed on them to be the breadwinner and, you know, always have everything together financially and that type of thing. Whereas I think women are given a little bit more grace because women rear children and take care of, you know, households and that type of thing. They're both complicated in their own ways, I think.
And money's very difficult and kind of isolating to talk about in general, because like you said, a lot of the people you work with are high earners. Nobody really feels a whole lot of sympathy, I would probably say, for people, you know what I mean? Oh, you feel like, you know what I mean?
What are you complaining about?
Yeah, exactly. And it's, I can totally see that.
Yeah.
You mentioned a statistic about millennials. Is there any reason why in particular there's such a high percentage of millennials experiencing financial trauma versus other generations?
It's a good question. I mean, I think it has a lot to do with how society has changed, you know, how much harder it's been in the millennial generation to buy a home, raise a family. When I say harder, I mean compared to like my parents who I don't remember when they got married, what decade it was, but if you're talking like 50s and 60s compared to 2000s, 2010s, what do you call that decade?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like there's a huge difference. It's significantly harder to get by financially, I think, based on the research I've done. And I'm very interested in like societal effects on money, cultural effects on money. I mean, this country, my God, like, we have so many advantages. We have so many struggles. You know, look at Gen Z today and what they're dealing with, trying to get jobs and like being unable to buy a home and that type of thing. So I really think it's timing more than anything. It's the timing of when you were born and society and culture and all of that, the economy and wealth has been concentrated at the top. I mean, it's really indisputable. We can argue until the cows come home if that has or hasn't happened, but there's substantial evidence that it has. And so because wealth is concentrated at the top, there are a lot fewer people below the, top 1% that are thriving financially.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah. And it just is interesting to me when I think about different generations, like baby boomers versus like millennials and stuff like that, and how, like you're saying, cultural shifts, like I think consumerism maybe is like, we are just so inundated with like, buy this, keep up with that. And like, it was a simpler time back then, but it also wasn't like, I'm not saying no one had financial trauma. I'm sure they had deep financial trauma. It just looked very, very different than what we see today, because it was probably so much more tied to survival at that time than now. It's tied to like a lot more of just like pop culture, I guess, in some ways. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, that's just my opinion when I think back. But like, I always personally, when I think about like, when I think sometimes about money, or if I'm ever stressed about it, like I think about stories that I heard about like my parents' parents and like the Great Depression. And so, and it's like, that's real shit. You know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be okay. And maybe I'm not too happy that like I didn't make X amount or whatever, but like when you put things in perspective, like that is very different trauma than like some of the stuff not that it doesn't weigh the same on us, but we're just experiencing things very differently. And at that time, no one was talking about this stuff either.
Right. I'm so glad you mentioned the Great Depression because this is something I think about all the time. And I'm Gen X. I'm like firmly Gen X. And some of my clients are mostly millennials and Gen X. My grandparents survived the Great Depression. And that was an extremely traumatizing experience for people who survived it.
Yeah.
We're talking like holes in your socks, poor. Yeah. Right? Dirt poor, like can't afford to buy meat poor, like bad. I mean, we complain today, like first world problems. Oh, Starbucks is out of my favorite beverage. What am I going to get? Oh, right. Cry me a river, right? Like you have socks, you have meat, like it's okay, chill, right? But we feel that way today because we are so bombarded by consumer capitalism messaging, buy this. I mean, social media has like transformed the whole like advertising landscape, right? Oh, yeah. So my parents were raised by parents who survived the Great Depression. Because of that, my parents were extremely frugal. And a lot of people I talk to in my parents' generation are the same. They didn't buy shit that they didn't need, like we do all the time. I mean, I've gotten a lot better to my credit, but I have at times had a house filled with crap from Amazon, cheap junk that I don't even need, right? My parents never had that experience, but they were happy. They invested time, energy, and money into experiences and things that really mattered. We've gotten so far away from that. So it was different for them because they were much more mindful about what they spent their money on. Now, I'm frugal. I've been hyper vigilant with my money, which is not healthy. So I'm getting better about not being overly frugal because it's restrictive, and we can talk about that later. But I learned what my parents taught me. And they learned what their parents taught them. And what their parents taught them came from a place of severe trauma. So there's been research done that has shown that, well, first of all, we know that trauma rewires your brain, Like it literally changes you at your like core level. And so some of the work that I do with clients who experience financial trauma is rewiring their brain. There's specific techniques that we use to do that. And so research has shown that not only is your brain rewired from trauma, but I don't know if this word is correct, and I'm not an expert. I need to spend more time researching this, but it's epigenetics, I believe, is the term that shows that people can be changed on a biological level. It actually impacts their DNA, and they can pass that down to future generations, even if they haven't specifically taught about it, even if you had no exposure to your previous generations in your family, that their experiences can still impact your behaviors, which is mind-blowing to me. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So I mentioned earlier, it's important to understand the source of the beliefs and behaviors, but you don't have to in order to change them.
Yeah.
I like to because it makes more sense to me. It also helps me figure out, well, what tools can I use to help them, knowing that these were their specific challenges or this is the source. But anyway, just the connections between previous generations. Like, we're not even talking about like what happened in your childhood. We're talking about like what happened, you know, many decades ago, if not centuries ago. There was one study, if anyone's interested in looking it up, there's a study done on like the potato famine in Ireland or something, and future generations dealing with mental illness. I want to say schizophrenia specifically, like really fascinating stuff about like how people's brains can be impacted by, you know, generations ago, their experiences. It's just, it's wild. I find that stuff really fascinating.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
To me, I find like present day so fascinating because of because of social media, keeping up with the Kardashians. It seems very, even just looking around, it feels like everybody has money. And I know that is not the case. I know that's not the case. But just looking around, like the cars driving next to you, are people just operating from a space of they're just entirely over leveraged? Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
Is that what I'm seeing? Or am I, and it's like the shift of just overconsumption, spending beyond your means, things like that. And we're seeing that as normal now. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned this. It's complicated.
Yeah.
But what I can tell you is this: what you see is not always what you get.
Oh, yeah.
So social media presents a curated image, right? I think we're all aware of these channels that say like, you know, Instagram versus reality. So they'll do like a pullback and like, this is what it actually looks like, you know, this is just like highly photoshopped or whatever, staged, whatever. So there's another thing to keep in mind here. Truly wealthy people generally don't flaunt their wealth. So number one, truly wealthy people typically build wealth through being careful and mindful and deliberate with their spending. And what I know when I see someone driving down the street in a Maserati is, let's say I have some sort of sense of how much that car cost. I have no idea. Let's just say it's $100,000. I know that they didn't use that $100,000 to invest in something that made them money. They're now $100,000 poorer because they bought that car. That's typically not the mindset of someone who is financially vigilant. And we can talk about that at some point in time. The different money scripts, there's 4 different categories. Financial vigilance is one of them. And statistically, it correlates with the highest level of wealth. So one of the other money script categories is money status. And that is the person who gets a lot of validation from other people and external sources. And so they are wearing the designer clothes, the labels, you know, wearing I don't know what the purses are because I'm like, my money status scores are very low. Like I just don't give a shit. You know, I really don't care. but the purses, like, what are some of the purses that are like
Like a
Louis
Louis Vuitton.
Vuitton? Okay, so that type of thing is money status. And so money is more of like an outward display and what people think of how I'm presenting myself. That can actually come from financial trauma as well. Being raised poor is very common. It's usually one extreme or the other. Either that individual with really high money status scores was raised very poor and they are desperately want to avoid that for the rest of their lives, or they were raised in great wealth and that's normal for them. But again, going back to people who are very vigilant, they typically don't flaunt their wealth. They are not the people standing on the steps of the private airplane taking selfies and posting them to Instagram.
Yeah.
They're just not, you know?
Yep.
But at the same time, you have like the Kardashians, you have people with like obscene amounts of wealth who also have high money status, money scripts, money beliefs. So it's complicated. It's not like that simple, but I can tell you that based on research, being financially vigilant correlates with higher levels of wealth.
I feel like this is a good segue to the 4 money scripts. So part of what you teach is 4 money scripts. So you touched on some of them.
Yeah.
Maybe just back out of it a little bit and then lead us back in, if you would.
What that means.
Yeah. So money scripts are a concept developed by Brad and Ted Klontz. They're my professors in my financial psychology and behavioral finance graduate program. They did research on thousands of college students and I believe it was clients at financial planning firms. They are both financial psychologists and CFPs, which is a certified financial planner. So they have access to these huge pools of people, basically. So they did research on many thousands of people and discovered that people typically fall into 4 specific categories of financial beliefs. And those beliefs are called money scripts. And the money script categories are financial avoidance, financial focus or financial worship. It's the same thing. We use focus more now because it's a friendlier term, but it's really financial worship, like being consumed with thoughts of money, making more money. Financial money status is the other one that I just mentioned, and money vigilance. So again, it's money avoidance, money worship, money status, and money vigilance. Usually when I talk to my clients about this, their eyes glaze over and they're like, well, I don't understand any of that. So what I did was I created this concept of money spirit animals. So there's a specific spirit animal that correlates with each one of these. So let me tell you what those spirit animals are because they're a lot easier to understand. So the turtle is the money avoidant. The turtle is cruising along through its life with its head out of the shell, its legs going, right? But as soon as the topic of money comes up, or a bill comes up in the mail, or they have to check their bank account, or someone tries to talk to them about money, they're terrified and they withdraw immediately. They retract their head into their shell, legs go in, and they do not come out again until the threat of money has passed. So they'll be working, they make money, they have an income, which is when their head's out of the shell, they're cruising along. But if they're faced with money, face to face, it's like, holy shit, I can't. And so they retract. So that's the turtle, is the money avoidant. The next one is I'm excited to talk about this, the hamster, which is the money worship. So the hamster is constantly running on its wheel, trying to get more money, more money, more money, more money. And I'm giggling because I have a feeling a few people in your audience will relate to this.
Not me.
What?
Well, I don't know about that.
So one of the core money scripts, which is, again, script just means belief. One of the core money scripts is I can never have enough money. I can never have enough money. And then the other core belief is more money will make me more happy. Money equals happy, right? So money brings all the good things, and there's really nothing bad about that. So that's the hamster. It's just constantly running on the wheel. But the tricky thing is there's no finish line. it's just a wheel that keeps going around
Just
in
moving
circles,
the
right?
goalpost
Yeah.
further and further.
There's no end point, which is something I work with my clients on. Well, how do we define that? What does enough look like? And I've done it for myself. It's not easy to do, but it's absolutely possible. So that's the hamster is the money worship or money focus, if you want to, put it nicely. The money status is the peacock, which makes sense. It's all about flaunting. How do I look? Like presenting appearances. And this person believes that their self-worth or their net worth determines their self-worth. So they don't feel worthy as human beings if they don't have a very high net worth. And that's something that they need other people to see and acknowledge and recognize in order to feel good. So it's all about like external validation versus internal validation is the peacock. And then the money vigilant is the owl. So the wise old owl that is, has the book open. It's like the professor, that kind of stereotype.
It's the nerd.
The nerd, yeah. So this is the person who is, an astute investor, is making deliberate, mindful decisions about their money. However, there's a dark side to the owl, and that is hypervigilance. And a lot of people that survived the Great Depression became hypervigilant. I learned that from my childhood. My parents learned that from their parents who survived the Great Depression. And so if you become hyper vigilant about your money, you're too concerned about where every dime and dollar is going. And the way I look at the owl is when they're hyper vigilant, they're hoo at every single thing you spend money on. It's like, just chill out, right? Yeah. It's cool. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it. And so I think having these animal analogies helps us understand the kind of unhealthy ways that these beliefs and behaviors show up in our lives. Mm-hmm. Again, the owl, it correlates to usually greater wealth. Any of these things can be taken to an extreme. By the way, also, you can have more than one money spirit animal.
Yeah.
That's where things get really tricky, is if you have a constant push-pull inner conflict between two of them, like the hamster and the owl are like polar opposites, basically. Well, not really. I mean, they're all opposites. I have, this is kind of a side note, I created a free PDF guide that includes these for money spirit animals in detail, but it also has what I like to call emotional support animals for the main money spirit animals. And these are animals that you can strive to be more like, develop the qualities of those. So like the opposite of I'll just throw out one example. The opposite of the hamster is golden retriever. Golden retriever is chill, gets joy from a lot of different things in life, is not constantly running like some other dog breeds. Like what's that? Australian Shepherd.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And so the golden retriever embodies qualities that a hamster may like to become more like. And so it gives us kind of like a better model of what financial beliefs and behaviors can be. And those emotional support animals can have mantras. Like I call them new money mantras as a tool that I use in my coaching. It's a great way to reframe beliefs or these money scripts that we hold on to that are unhealthy for us. And by the way, this is a good place to make this note. I don't care how much money people have. I care about how they feel about it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the core.
Mm-hmm.
Is do you feel comfortable and good and at ease in your relationship with money? If you don't, that's a problem. It doesn't matter how much you have or how low, because you can be poor and happy as a clam.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can be super rich and absolutely miserable.
Yeah.
I know I work with some people like that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I find that I struggle with the conflicting messages, right? It's like quality, like, oh, you should spend a little bit more and get a better quality product versus, a bunch of cheap Amazon things. But then it's like, all right, well, if I buy a quality product, then I feel like I'm showing off because it's usually a designer brand. That's just a quick example, right? But then also in more theoretical ways, like, grind, my dad always used to say, there's nothing wrong with going to bed tired. But then I have the conflicting message of, you know, money should be in flow. You know what I mean? Money can't flow to you if you are in a state of, you know,
Scarcity
and grinding.
Angst.
And I'm like, oh my
Mhm.
God, like, holy shit, I've got
Yeah.
got all of these conflicting messages. So I'm a little woo woo if people haven't picked up on that yet. I struggle with the idea of manifesting, right? Like, I
Mhm.
know I need to be in a state of flow to receive. But I also know that shit ain't getting done unless I, you know,
Grind a little.
unless I grind a little bit. What's the balance? Like, what are our thoughts on like manifesting versus actual like input to get things done? That conflicting message. Like, how would you
Mhm.
best help someone navigate those ideals and marry the two, right?
Oh, I love this question so much. I call
Help
myself
me.
I call myself a money mindset coach because when I say I'm a financial behavior specialist, people are like, I don't know what that means. What
Yeah.
is that? What do you do? I'm not a huge fan of the term mindset, kind of because of what it represents. And like you think of manifestation in The Secret, for example. So I've had very strong thoughts about exactly what you just said, but I came to a conclusion. This is a conclusion I came to. In psychology, you're talking about beliefs when you're talking about mindset. If you don't believe something can happen, it's highly likely it won't.
Mm-hmm.
But manifesting something is not about, I believe I'm going to win lottery and therefore I will. Life doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
You have to have action. That's the key component, or hustle, as you call it. So but it starts with a belief. And if your core subconscious belief is that I'm not worthy of making money, which is something I struggled with for a long time, and it came from a severe trauma experience. I'm not worthy of making more. For me, it was more money than I am now.
Yeah,
Like,
that
I'm
imposter
good.
syndrome.
Yeah, I'm
right?
good with where I'm at now, but I certainly can't make more money because then I'd be a really shitty, awful, terrible person. Who am I to like expect more money out of life, right? I've worked through that. I'm a lot better now. But you start with making sure your beliefs are solid and that you believe that you can manifest or materialize whatever it is that you're chasing after. And then you take action steps to get there. But you have to have both of those.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to think of how to best answer your question. I think where some discomfort can come from is when you're doing all of the action steps you know you need to be doing, but things aren't changing or you feel like they're not changing. That's when I question, well, is this a psychological challenge
Mm-hmm.
and not like a logistical or tactical or strategic challenge? Strategy tactics are really easy to change. Psychology is not as easy to change. That's why I exist, is I
Yeah.
help people with that. And so I would talk to you and try and find out where these conflicting beliefs come from. What is the source? The really cool thing about beliefs that are kind of programmed into us by our family is we can change them.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to do, and it takes time and like intentional, deliberate effort, but we absolutely can change them. I mean, I'm living proof. I used to be a turtle. Most of my adult life, I was a turtle. Like I mean, I would practically throw up if I got a letter from the IRS, you know, it was like terrible, right?
Yeah.
Like my life is over, basically, like dread, right?
Yeah.
Now I get a letter from the IRS. I'm like, oh God, what
Yeah.
mistake did I make or did they make? And it's just not
Yeah.
that big of a deal. It's just a hassle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can definitely change your beliefs, but I would start there because if you're doing all of the strategy and tactical stuff that you know you need to be doing, and you still feel wildly uncomfortable, you feel like you're not reaching your goals, or you're actually not reaching your goals, or you were like I was for a period of time, alternating between making a shitload of money and repelling money. I'm like, why am I repelling money repeatedly? What is this all about? There's something going on in your mindset. And oftentimes it's subconscious, which is why it's so tricky. You're not
Yeah.
even aware that you think like that. You just
Mhm.
have no, you can go through your entire life being blissfully unaware that you have these subconscious beliefs that drive your behavior.
Yeah.
It's like, so talking kind of like on a woo aspect, I think about the concept of angst a lot,
Mm-hmm.
where you're like, the best way that I can think about this is I think many of us when we were teenagers felt angsty over someone we had a crush on
Mm-hmm.
or like trying to get with, right? And like, oh God. And even if we were trying to be cool around that person, that angst still bubbled up in our behaviors
Mhm.
and like turn them off, you know, and turn them away from us. And they're like, I don't know, you're just something feels weird about you. And inside you're like, oh, please kiss me, please kiss me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's that angsty feeling.
Yeah.
And when we're like that towards money, I think that's what creates that repelling factor. There is sort of an energy there, but I don't know if I'm a very like woo person too, which is why I thought, oh, let's come up with spirit animals to equate with these
Yeah.
money scripts, right? But I don't know if I believe that there's like a push-pull energy. There's a lot of literature out there and books written on like
Yeah.
the spirituality of money. And it's great. It's fun and interesting. And maybe there's a lot of truth there and I haven't gotten it yet. But I feel like the energy that we put out there is influencing our behavior. And if you look at cognitive behavioral therapy, our beliefs influence our behaviors influence our environment, which means the people and things and experiences around us. And then our environment influences and or reinforces our beliefs, what we think. So it's this loop, and you have to break the loop to change the outcome like of your life, basically. And it starts with your beliefs and your thoughts. You change your thoughts. That's what cognitive behavioral therapy is. You change your thoughts, and basically everything else follows from that.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So we'll definitely put that PDF in the show notes with the spirit animals.
Awesome.
What are like three? It doesn't even have to be three. What are some tactical things that someone listening or watching could implement if they see some of this within themselves? I'm sure everybody sees some of this within
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
But if somebody wanted to take a small action to like better themselves, what's something they could do?
I love that. So we're talking about tools that I use in my coaching practice and that I've used for myself. I have done everything that I do with my clients, I have done on myself. I was my first guinea pig. One of the most powerful things anyone can do is journal.
Okay.
I think that is so powerful when it comes to financial psychology because there's so much shame around money, talking about money. You touched on that very briefly earlier. People don't feel comfortable talking about money. Usually they'll celebrate their wins and they might say something about like, oh, you know, I made this big commission. But for some people, that's wildly uncomfortable to even mention that because they may think like, I don't want to look like I'm showing off, you know.
Where does that stem from? Like the shame of money?
I don't know.
Especially in a society where I feel like everybody's very comfortable putting out their highlight reel.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like
it's surprising.
It's very similar to me to the topic of mental illness,
Mhm.
which has only become like a widely acceptable topic as of like the pandemic, I think, really
Mhm.
just the
Yeah.
last like 5 years. Because basically everyone was depressed in 2020, right?
Yeah.
Who wasn't it, right? So this is kind of like a big side note diversion, but
Yeah,
one
and
of
I totally
my
interrupted, so we'll go back to
no, it's good. I'm good with like tangents and then coming back
Yeah.
around. I'm usually good with that. So one of my primary goals, like my why of why I do this, is to maybe not remove the shame and stigma, but at least significantly reduce the shame and stigma around talking openly about money.
Mhm.
And that includes things that we recognize or we look at as being failures.
Mhm.
I don't call them failures, I call them learning experiences because we have the opportunity to learn from everything we experience, right? But if we feel like it's a failure and we feel shame around it, or we feel confused or like everyone else has this figured out, but I don't. By the way, not everyone has it figured out. I know this because I talk to people. I talk
Yeah.
about money all the time, right? Not
Yeah.
everyone has figured out. Everyone wants to make it seem like they have it figured out. So everyone thinks everyone has figured out, but they
Yeah.
don't. Few people have it figured out. Small percentage of the population has it all figured out. So the shame and stigma, I think, come up because lack of education is huge. You know,
Yeah.
very few people receive any type of personal finance education. They certainly don't receive any type of emotional education about how to deal with all the feelings around money. And like the emotional side of money is much more complicated and I think more prevalent. Like personal finance is not that hard to figure out, at least the basics, but the psychology of it, like why do I feel shame? Why do I feel guilt? Why do I feel guilty about making money? This is so weird. And then not being able to have anyone to talk to about it is because we never learned. We were never taught. My parents were never taught. Their parents probably weren't taught, you know, so it's lack of education. I think in the United States, we're so focused on success in life, like the American dream, you know, building the American dream, and especially what that looks like today and how different that is from, 50, 70 years ago, like wildly different. And so I think we don't want people to view us as failures or losers. And we're terrified that if they learn, what's really going on in our financial lives, like they're just going to think totally different of us and think less of us.
Yeah.
Okay, now I did get off on a tangent. What was your question again?
Well, what people could do. You were talking about journaling being a really great activity.
Yes. Okay, so because there's so much shame and stigma around money, most people don't feel comfortable talking to even their friends and family. My family still does not feel comfortable talking to me about money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I giggle because I'm like, I am the last person on the planet that will judge you for anything relating to your finances. Like truly, I will never judge you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh my God, you did what? Oh my God.
Yeah.
No, that's just not, no, like this is my work. This is what I do, and my therapist feels awkward talking to me about money. She's like, well, your insurance changed. And she's just like cringing. And I'm just like, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine. So I giggle about it, but I get it. Like that's normal. It's normal for people to feel wildly uncomfortable talking about money. So, and I appreciate that. I have a lot of respect for that. So journaling is a very powerful thing anyone can do to start. I'm not talking even about like handwriting because my handwriting is epically slow and I could probably get 10 words out by the time I've had like full trains of thoughts, So I just use a Google document.
Yeah.
It's called Money Journal. I don't know if you can password protect those if you feel like you need to, but just free type. And I date mine. So this is the date. And I will actually put a title, something that's like relevant to what I'm thinking about, like money scarcity or something, date money scarcity. Like this is on my mind a lot. And just free flow all the thoughts out. It's like a replacement for a therapist. By the way, I hate to say this, but research has shown that therapists are typically some of the worst people with money, and they're usually turtles.
Really?
Yeah. So even if they make really good money, they just don't feel comfortable talking about it, dealing with it. It's some of the helping professions are like that because they have some money scripts that say like, it's hard to be a good person and have money, things like that. Like if you're going to be a really good, giving, generous, kind person, then you can't be rich, right? Mm-hmm. Those beliefs. So a therapist isn't the best person to go to talk about your money problems because they'll either give you kind of like standard rote answers or they'll use stereotypes in their answers or they just like cringe, like, oh my God, they're talking about money. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
So a journal is a great, alternative for that. So journaling is awesome. Money mantras are something I use a lot, something I still use every single day. I have a Post-it note on my computer display screen. So once the unhelpful, or I call them unhealthy beliefs, I don't think beliefs are either right or wrong. I think they're either healthy for you or they're unhealthy for you or somewhere in between. So once the unhealthy belief is recognized and acknowledged and accepted, okay, I have this belief. I see that this is unhealthy. What do I do about it? A mantra is basically a statement that you use and you practice over and over and over and over and over again until you actually believe it. So it's reshaping your brain, it's reframing your beliefs, and they actually work. The key is to do them all the time. So like when I was doing some of this work on myself, I would have a Post-it note on the mirror in my bathroom, on my kitchen cupboard, on my bedroom door. Like I had them all over the house. Of course, whenever guests or like a work person would come over, it was a little awkward. I'm like, let me just pull these off real quick,
Yeah.
But then I was also trying to get comfortable with that awkwardness of like,
Yeah.
oh my God, people are knowing my inner like money feelings. That was part of it
Yeah.
for me. And so writing, like think of a money belief, money script that would be unhelpful. And I'll see if I can come up with the opposite, a healthier belief.
You have to, I'm saying one from, you can't be poor and happy, right? Wasn't that one a money script or money?
Yeah. Money script. So money belief.
Or like someone might say like, you can't be poor and happy, right?
Yeah.
Is that what you mean?
That is one of the hamsters beliefs, the money worship.
Yeah.
Is you can't be poor and be happy. I gain joy from experiences in life, things and people in life, including money.
Okay.
I gain joy from experiences, people, and things in life, including money. So it's not all of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Listen, I just want to make it really clear. I love money. Like, give me more of it. I want more.
Yeah.
Right. I do have an enough point. I'm not there yet, but money is beautiful. It's a wonderful thing. It is a tool that we choose how to use. It's totally neutral. We assign value to money. It's just meaningless on its own. If you're talking about cash, it's a piece of freaking paper. You can light it on fire, right?
Yeah.
And so you choose to use the tool that is money deliberately and intentionally for whatever you want, right? And it can be used for incredible good. We don't see that in the media, unfortunately, and that sucks. Like you have to go out and search for the stories of money being used for good, but they're absolutely there. If you search for them, you find them, right? Philanthropy is a great example of that. What we hear about in media is terrible ways that money is being used or ways or things people do, horrible things people do. I can think of one person that's central in the media right now who is no longer alive, who did terrible things for money. And so those are the stories that we hear and that kind of reinforce beliefs that people may have that like, you can't have money and be a good person. But also there are stories about people living around the world who are dirt freaking poor and blissfully happy.
Yeah.
Blissfully happy, happier than you and I will ever be in our entire lives. Right.
Yeah.
And they literally don't have a floor in their hut.
Yeah.
They have dirt. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
how is that possible? Think about like, how is it possible for people to be blissfully happy and totally content with their lives when they have no money? How is it possible?
Yeah. Well, and then that brings up other stuff, right? Like for me, then that brings up a lot of guilt, right? Of like my lifestyle and my desire to have money. And then you kind of spiral in a different way of like, well, maybe I shouldn't want money and, people live without it. And, so it's like, it really is about identifying, it sounds like, what your financial trauma could be or what that money story was growing up, figuring out what that was, whether you recognize it or not, and then trying to reframe that for yourself, understanding what your behavior is towards money with those scripts, and then reframing it in a different way so that it's a more healthier relationship.
Yeah, absolutely.
Money.
And another answer to your question, Kelly, of what can people do? Talk to a professional. So that would be either a financial therapist or a financial behavior specialist like me. Some financial coaches that specialize in helping people deal with debt and that type of thing also have some understanding of financial psychology.
Like a
It's
Dave
pretty
Ramsey
small. No.
Oh.
No.
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 Nah.
No. Most practitioners of David Ramsey are dealing strictly with strategic and tactical money management. So budgeting, investing, saving, spending, they don't delve into the financial psychology. So it's a pretty small camp of people who do what I do.
Yeah.
I call myself a unicorn, which sounds boastful, but I am like equal left brain and right brain. So I'm really good with the strategy and tactics, but I'm also really good with the emotional side
Yeah.
and the psychology side. So a financial behavior specialist is really the best person. Some of them are actually also CFPs, which is brilliant because they are experts in investing and like growing your money, growing your wealth, but they also understand the emotional side, which is so critical. It's such a huge part of our relationship with money. So talking to someone, especially if it's for the first time, most of the clients that I work with say, I've never talked to anyone about any of these things. I've never shared. And it like, it makes me emotional because it's really sad. Like it is so sad how much suffering people experience when there are people that they can talk to, you know, who really understand, who not only understand, but people like me who have been there, you know, like I've gone through the fucking trenches. Like I know what it feels like. It's awful. I know what it feels like to be like on your knees crying over money challenges and not having anyone to talk to about it. Like it's just terrible. And feeling guilty, you know, getting a huge check in the mail and being like, I don't deserve this. Like, who am I to like get this money? Like, I'm a terrible person. And there's children starving in Africa.
Yeah.
You know, that was a message that I grew up learning, like children starving in Africa, you know, people who survived the Great Depression, like, it's so complicated. So complicated. So
Well,
like
it makes it hard to even celebrate the wins that you worked so hard for.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like
absolutely.
I have found myself this year, I closed the biggest deal I've ever done, and it closed. I got my commission. I was like, whew, next. And I didn't celebrate it, anything. And it took my husband Guy to be like, whoa, like we're going to go out to dinner and like not celebrate the money, but celebrate that you worked really hard for this. And like you've hit a milestone that you've tried to hit for so long. And I was like, oh yeah, like I wasn't even in a mental state to like congratulate myself. You know, maybe that's part guilt, part hamster. You know, part hamster.
Yep.
It's also trauma.
Yeah.
So it's actually very common among people who've experienced financial trauma is when you have a big win, you feel neutral.
Yeah.
You feel nothing. It's bizarre. It's like, why? I have so much money now.
Yeah.
I worked my ass off for this money and I feel nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I work with a lot of clients who experience that. Like, one of the client kind of subtypes that I work with is overnight millionaires.
Okay.
And many of them did not have any money. Like they didn't come from wealth. So their overnight millions is like brand new to them.
Yeah.
And they're terrified and they're like, oh my God, family's going to treat me differently. And no one understands what I'm experiencing. And now I can't trust anyone. And like my whole identity has changed. And it's really tricky for people who grew up with money beliefs. Like it's hard to be a good person and have money, or like rich people are evil.
Yeah.
You know, I was a punk rocker when I was young and I was like, oh, fuck
that.
rich people, you know. I've changed a lot since then, obviously. But you know, people have those beliefs and they have that identity of themselves, and then all of a sudden they're a millionaire. Like, who am I now? I'm just a total piece of shit now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's terrifying. Like it just shakes like the whole foundation that your life is built on. And so it's very common for them to either feel like overwhelming fear and angst and anxiety when they get the money, or not feel anything at all.
Yeah.
And so that's a common response of trauma, is it's like a disassociation almost.
Yeah.
It's very complicated, but it you know, for any of your viewers or listeners who are like, yeah, last time I got a huge commission check, I was just like, meh.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. And that's actually totally normal if you look at the context of your life and all of your experiences and your own personal money story growing up and things that you've experienced. And can we please talk about the challenges of having a business that has such a wildly variable income?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and there's so many external factors affecting it. Rates, you know, basically the emotions of other people and their tolerance to be in or out of the market, you know.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, I mean, you can do the same work for $5,000 or like $50,000,
Mhm.
depend as long as the
Yeah.
client is fairly like easy or whatever, the same type of client.
Yep.
You can do the same amount of work for different, and those swings are really hard because then you get like a check that's smaller than the big one, and you're like, oh, okay, and then things dry up for 1 second and you're like, oh my god, am I ever going to get anything else
Yeah.
again? And then things start rolling in and you're like, oh, I should probably buy myself that nice thing I wanted. And
Mhm.
and so it is just a constant roller coaster of how do you manage it?
Yeah.
Because you don't, like, you can of course say like my income, it should be this year based on what I'm projected to, but like you said, so many outside
Mhm.
factors that can affect that or change the course of what you expect to make. And how do you budget based on that appropriately, for business expenses and your personal expenses, and be responsible and also enjoy and celebrate.
Mhm.
And there's just such a harmony that has to be there that is very difficult when we all have different beliefs around it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah,
throwing.
there. Just side note, there are financial coaches, and that is the term. It's financial coach, who specialize in working with people who are in that exact situation with wildly variable income. It's
Mhm.
not something that I do. I've done it for myself personally, but I found it so exhausting. I was like, I actually don't work with, I don't, I did consulting for small businesses for very, very many years. I don't do that anymore. I don't work with business owners. I work with business owners, but on their personal, like on a personal
Yeah.
level,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to get into your like business finances. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
That's not my passion anymore. But yeah, strategy and budgeting and tactical is also another huge component of dealing with and managing income circumstances like that, where it's just this huge roller coaster of ups and downs. By the way, I was just thinking, I think one of the reasons why at some point in time, after living a lifestyle like that for so many years, you have like neutral responses, is because your heart and your mind and your emotions just can't sustain huge disappointment followed by huge wins and celebrations over and over and
Yeah.
over again. It's
Mhm.
exhausting,
Mhm.
right? And so I think to like protect yourself from these huge swings of emotions, your brain is just like neutral.
Yeah.
You're like,
Yeah.
okay, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because it just can't handle that.
Yep.
I think probably for all of us in the beginning, when we had wildly variable income, we did have those huge emotional peaks and valleys over and
Yep.
over. And it
Mhm.
just got to the point where we're like, oh, I can't do that anymore. Right.
Mhm.
So, but getting back to the strategy and the tactical stuff, creating, so part of the work that I do with clients is exploring personal values. And it's finding out like what is truly meaningful to you in life. Everyone says family. That's just a given. I don't even know if I have that on the values list. It probably is, but you know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
well, duh. But there's over 100 unique personal, I think there's like 150, but for the values that I use in my practice, there's over 100 different unique personal values. Most people don't do anything about those personal values. When you combine the deeply held personal values, especially the ones that have been ignored for a really long time, with intentional spending and savings, it completely transforms how you use money as a tool, like strategically. So if well, first off, if my emergency fund is funded, I'm good. I can see it. I look at it every day. I'm using a budgeting app, which I think everyone should use, especially people with financial anxiety. It makes a huge difference. It's a total game changer. You can see your money at a glance. You go, it's there. I'm acknowledging it. Good to see you, money. Okay, I can chill out a little bit. And so you have that emergency savings fund funded. It's going to cover your ass when terrible things happen, like a pandemic or illness or whatever. And then you start making decisions about where am I going to put this money so that I can deal with feelings of guilt, so that I know when I get like an extra windfall, like I saw this multi-million-dollar house. It was really easy. It took a month. Like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting this. What do you do with that money? You have strategy around where the money goes And the strategy is based on your personal values. So it has meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not just doing it because it's a Dave Ramsey formula that everyone told you to do.
Mhm.
Like, I don't give a shit about Dave Ramsey formula. I don't. I mean, a lot of that stuff works and it works for a lot of people,
Yeah.
which is great. But I feel like if you don't have some sort of meaning and value behind the decisions you make with your money, like it's just kind of hollow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's in and out.
Or you're
comes and
going through the
goes. Yep.
motions because you
Yeah.
think that's what you should do.
Yep.
Right. And the other thing too is that research has shown there have been research studies done. I'm big on research, by the way. I'm very woo-woo, but I'm very like research shows. So research has shown that when people are able to distinctly visualize their retirement or any financial goal they're working towards, they can feel it, they can see it, they can taste it, they can touch it, they can put themselves right in that moment by closing their eyes. They're significantly more likely to be successful in reaching that financial goal.
Mhm.
It's just like an
It's
Olympic
like a,
swimmer.
like a vision
Yeah.
board type.
Visualizing. It's visualizing yourself there.
Yeah.
And so the name of savings accounts is hugely important. If it just says savings, you don't have
Yeah.
the same level of motivation there. You don't have this immediate connection, like a visceral connection
Yeah.
to something that you've visualized for yourself.
Mm.
And so like drawing pictures is another great thing. This is something that I have my clients do is draw pictures. They're usually terrible pictures because it's just like, in crayon or colored pencil or whatever, stick figures and stuff. Like I'm all about stick figures, but it doesn't matter. It's just like draw a
Yeah.
picture of your retirement. What does
Yeah.
that look like? Mine is in Italy or maybe Mexico and it's like hot and sunny.
I like that.
I mean, this is hot and sunny here.
Yeah.
Phoenix, but you know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
more, no, it's tropical. And it's just a big group of people eating around this huge communal dining table. And there's like animals running around at our feet and we're having like this 4-hour meal, tons of conversation. It's very like
Oh, I love
social
that.
and lively and wine is flowing all night. And it's all, I just got
There you
goosebumps
go.
all over. I literally have this picture that I drew and I can see it in my mind and I can see the image that I visualized.
Yeah.
That is what I want my life to look like
Yeah.
after I retire.
Mhm.
It brings me so much joy. So it's not this like nebulous thing. I'm going to retire and then I don't know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right. Like I have a very specific goal that I'm working towards. It's
Yeah.
really powerful.
Yeah.
So
I
that
love
goal is tied directly into my budget and my like tactical money management. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in closing, I know we've got to wrap this up. This was awesome.
Yeah. So
and
helpful.
I could literally,
Good.
I mean, we
like,
could go for hours.
I know. I love talking about this stuff. But if somebody wanted to connect with you or, look into your services, we'll go ahead and we'll put your website and your contact information in the show notes. Right?
Awesome. Yeah.
We'll also include the PDF with the
Money spirit animals.
money spirit
Yeah.
animals.
And their friends.
Yep. I'm pretty sure everyone listening is probably a hamster. But you can go ahead and check that out. If you are watching this on YouTube, go ahead and give us a follow. We'd love that. Share this with anyone who you think, this would identify with. It's most check on your self-employed friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're not okay.
Yeah.
And then wherever you listen to podcasts, be sure to give us a follow and give us a review. We'd love that so we can help spread the message. And again, thank you so much for being here. This is so helpful.
Yeah.
This is such a fun, it's a hard conversation. It's hard conversations to have,
Mhm.
but that's part of why we're doing what we're doing.
And I think it's relieving.
Transparency.
Yeah, I was going to say it's relieving that that this is a thing, right? Like
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, as you said, go at it alone and don't realize that this is happening to everyone in
Mhm.
one form or another.
Yep.
And so to know that you're not alone, there are
Mhm.
resources and we all have our own situations
Yep.
that we got to work through. So
Thank
it's
you for
normal.
being here.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks
Thank you
for
guys
sharing.
so much for having me.
Yeah.
I could talk about this stuff
I
all
know.
day.
I
All day.
know.
I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we will catch you on the next episode.